You know, when you walk into a bathroom, you're always just looking at the surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tile, the faucet, how the water feels.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could just peel back the drywall, you'd see that plumbing is not just water in, water out.
Not at all.
It's this, this hidden world of geometry, fluid dynamics, and honestly, a surprising amount of art.
It really is. We
Yeah.
think of it as just a utility, just pipes. But the rough-in stage, which is what we're talking about today, it's basically an engineering puzzle.
Right.
You're building this pressurized system that has to deal with heat, with gravity, with hydraulic shock, and it all has to sit inside a wall for, 30, 40 years without failing.
And without setting the house on fire in the process. So today we're doing a deep dive into mastering the art of copper rough-in and soldering.
Mm.
And we're pulling our insights from this really specific hands-on guide by Claude Taylor. It's from his How to Plumbing podcast.
Yeah, the bathroom add-on series,
Yep.
episode 3. And this source is great because it touches the project at such a critical moment. The drains are already in, the copper is mostly run. We're not in the mud here.
No.
We're at that point where it's all about finesse, making the final connections for the water supply. It's the difference between a total mess and a pro job.
So our mission today is to pull out that practical wisdom. We're not just reading a cool book. We're looking for those, those insider tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Like the egg shaping thing, which I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And just the basic physics of what makes a good solder joint.
Solder follows heat.
That's the one. But before we get to the fire and molten metal, we have to talk about the toolkit. Taylor's really specific about what you carry with you versus what you leave in the truck.
And that distinction is everything. I mean, if you're crawling under a floor or you're squeezed into a cabinet, you can't just run back to the truck.
You have to be self-contained.
Exactly. He says channel locks and a torpedo level, they just live in your pocket. Non-negotiable.
Okay, the torpedo level I get. Pitch is everything. But channel locks, that feels a little blunt,
Yeah.
I think of them as the tool you grab when you can't find the right wrench.
Right, for cranking on something. But in the right hands, they're absolutely a precision instrument.
Really?
Yeah, you're not just cranking. You're holding fittings, you're reaming edges in a pinch, grabbing stuff. His point is versatility.
Yeah.
If you have to crawl out just to get a pair of pliers, you're just wasting time.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of being in tight spots, this is where his tool talk got really specific for me. The cutting tools. Because I think for most of us, a pipe cutter is a pipe cutter. You spin it, tighten it, spin it again.
Sure, if you're at a workbench with all the space in the world, but Taylor's talking about the reality of a rough-in. You're cutting a pipe that's already in a wall.
Wedged between studs.
Exactly. And that's why he calls out the spring-loaded cutters.
I actually looked these up. The mechanism is pretty brilliant. Your standard cutter, you have to tighten that knob after every turn, right?
Yeah, as the blade digs in.
But if your hand can't reach the knob because you're reaching behind something.
You're stuck. And that's what the spring-loaded ones solve. It just applies constant pressure.
Yeah.
You clamp it on, and the spring does the tightening for you as you spin.
Turns a 5-minute struggle into a 30-second cut.
Pretty much.
But then he mentioned something so small, I almost missed it, but it seems to be a huge deal for him. The striker with fresh flint.
It sounds so trivial, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But think about it. You're in a dark, cramped space. You turn the gas on. You hear that hiss. You click the striker. Nothing. Click again. Still nothing.
And all the while, flammable gas is just pooling around your hands.
Exactly. A worn-out flint is a safety hazard. Plain and simple. Tool maintenance is safety. It has to light on the first click.
That reliability, yeah. Which brings us to the torch. A turbo torch. But he says the nuance is all in the tip.
This is all about heat management. A big tip throws this huge flame. It's great for heating a 1-inch pipe really fast.
But if you take that flamethrower into a wall cavity...
You're going to scorch the wood. Or set the insulation on fire.
Or melt the wiring.
Right. A small tip is for surgical precision. You want to heat the copper, not the house.
Okay, let's get to the main event then. The soldering. It's where the physics kicks in. You said it before. Solder follows heat.
Yep.
Now, when I first heard that, I thought, okay, so I point the torch at the solder.
And that is the #1 classic mistake.
Right.
If you do that, the solder just melts, drips all over the floor, and you've got a useless joint.
A liquid blob.
Solder follows heat is about capillary action. You heat the copper, fitting the joint, and when that copper gets hot enough, it literally sucks the molten solder into the gap.
It pulls it in.
It draws it toward the hottest point. If you get that, you can solder anything, anywhere. Uphill, sideways, doesn't matter.
But you can't just heat it up and hope for the best.
Yeah.
The prep work seems like it's 90% of the job. He mentions reaming cuts and fluxing. I know flux is for cleaning, but reaming, that's just smoothing the inside edge. Is that really that important?
Oh. It is absolutely non-negotiable. When you cut copper, it leaves a tiny ridge on the inside, a burr. If you leave it, it creates turbulence in the water flow.
Like a little rock in a stream.
Exactly like that. And over years, that turbulence creates cavitation, tiny little bubbles that implode and just eat away at the copper.
Wow.
You can get pinhole leaks a decade later, all because you didn't ream the cut.
So you're prepping for a problem that won't even show up for 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so he also mentioned a few physical tricks that were really clever. The hook.
Ah, the hook. That's a pro move.
Explain that.
Well, solder wire comes straight, but pipes are round, and half the time the back of the pipe is against a wall where you can't see a thing.
Right.
So he says you bend the last inch of the solder into a little hook. That lets you feel your way around the back of the joint. You can run that hook along the unseen side and know you're getting coverage.
That's smart. Then there was the bowed studs fix. You know, you're trying to run a straight pipe, but the house's framing is warped.
Wood moves, copper doesn't.
So he says to use 2 copper nails.
Yeah, essentially as shims or guides. You use the nails to force the pipe to stay straight, even if the wood behind it is all over the place. You're separating the plumbing's geometry from the framing's geometry.
But the tip that really, blew my mind was the egg-shaped trick.
Ah, I love this one. It's so good.
So you're putting a fitting on a vertical pipe, and gravity just keeps pulling it down before you can solder it.
It just slides right off. So frustrating.
And Taylor says to squeeze the pipe.
He says to take your channel locks and just gently squeeze the end of the pipe to make it slightly oval.
Egg-shaped.
Egg-shaped. You're not crushing it, just a tiny bit out of round.
But doesn't that ruin the fit?
No, because when you push that perfectly round fitting onto the slightly egg-shaped pipe, the friction holds it.
It locks it in place.
It locks it mechanically so it won't slide while you're trying to heat it up. It's pure craftsmanship. You only learn that after years of dropping hot fittings.
Okay, one more technique before we zoom out. The slide in. This sounded like a big safety rule.
It's the don't burn the house down rule.
Right. If a joint is too close to wood, don't solder it in place. He says you solder it in an off position, pull it away from the wall, heat it up, let it cool a bit, and then slide it into place.
It seems obvious, but I bet so many people try to be a hero with a little heat shield, just sweating the whole time.
And that is exactly how fires start. The slide in just removes the risk.
Okay, so let's zoom out. The pipes are connected. Now we have to talk about how the system behaves under pressure. And Taylor spends a lot of time on air chambers.
And he's specific.
18 inches long. So for anyone who doesn't know, an air chamber is basically a pipe that goes nowhere, right? It just sticks up and is capped off.
It's a dead end, but it's a dead end filled with air.
Why do you need that?
Think about water. It's heavy and it doesn't compress. So if water is flying through a pipe and a modern valve like on a washing machine slams shut instantly.
Like a car hitting a brick wall.
That's the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And all that kinetic energy has to go somewhere. It creates a shock wave. That's the bang or clunk you hear on the walls. That's water hammer. And the air chamber is an airbag.
Exactly. It's an airbag. Air does compress. So when that shock wave hits, the water slams up into that 18-inch chamber, and the air cushion absorbs the shock.
So the pipes don't have to take the hit.
Yeah.
And 18 inches is about having enough volume to absorb it.
Right. It's a calculated buffer.
Okay. He also insists on nail plates.
This is defense against the drywall, guys.
Well,
They
no.
come in, they work fast, they're driving screws everywhere. If your pipe is passing through a stud, a drywall screw will go right through it.
And you might not even know.
That's the nightmare. The screw plugs its own hole for a week, a month, then it rusts, and now you've got a slow leak inside a finished wall. A nail plate is just a steel shield. It's cheap insurance.
He wraps up with a few finishing details, but he had a specific tip for laundry boxes that caught my eye.
When the height is just a little bit off.
Yeah, and the temptation is just to pull on the pipe and stretch it that last half inch.
Yeah. Which puts the whole joint under permanent stress. Taylor's rule is simple. Don't force it. Cut it. Add a small piece of pipe with a coupling.
Do it right, even if it adds 10 minutes.
Never, ever leave plumbing under physical stress. It will always find a way to break.
Okay, looking at the bigger picture, there's a venting strategy he mentions that's interesting. The wet venting. He says the bathroom sink wets vent for the kitchen.
It's just a really efficient design. Every drain needs a vent to let air in, otherwise the water won't flow out.
It's like putting your thumb over a straw.
Exactly. So in a wet vent system, one pipe does two jobs. The drain for the bathroom sink is oversized, so it can carry the sink's water and still have enough airspace to act as the vent for the kitchen sink downstream.
So you're saving a whole run of pipe.
Saves pipes, saves space in the wall, you just have to know the codes to do it right.
And he also mentions, of course, when you tie this all into the main house water supply, you have to add shutoffs.
That's just being kind to the future. If this new bathroom has a leak, you shouldn't have to shut water off to the whole house to fix it.
But this is where the whole thing takes a really interesting turn. We've just spent all this time talking about the artistry of copper, the heat, the flux, the A-shaping, and then he mentions Plan B.
The evolution.
He literally says, this platform breaks down after Plan B swaps to PEX and individual vents.
And that's the reality of the trade today. Copper is expensive, it takes a ton of skill, a ton of time, and Plan B is PEX. Plastic tubing.
Which basically just snaps together.
Crimp rings, yeah. No fire, no solder, no flex. It's flexible. You can just snake it through the walls like a big extension cord.
He even says, if soldering is intimidating, maybe Plan B is for you.
He gets it. The barrier to entry for soldering is high. You're playing with fire, PEX. It kind of removes the art, but it also removes a lot of the risk for error.
So what's the big takeaway from all this?
Yeah.
We've gone from cutters to capillary action to air chambers.
I think the big thing is that good plumbing is a system of foresight. Taylor isn't just sticking pipes together. He is constantly thinking about the future. He's anticipating the drywall screw with a nail plate. He's anticipating water hammer with the air chamber. He's anticipating corrosion with the reaming tool.
It's defensive engineering.
That's exactly what it is. A good rough-in is about protecting the house from the water and protecting the plumbing from the house.
And I think that contrast between the copper work and the Plan B PEX really gets at something.
How do you mean?
Well, here's a thought to leave everyone with. To do what Taylor does with copper, you have to understand physics. You have to get how heat moves, how friction works with that egg-shaped trick.
You have to be in tune with the material itself.
Exactly. But if the future is PEX, if Plan B becomes Plan A, do we lose something? When we switch to materials that are easier and faster, do we lose that deep understanding that copper forces you to learn?
That's the question, isn't it? Is the trade just becoming more efficient, or are we lowering the ceiling for what it means to have real skill?
Something to think about the next time you turn on a faucet and hear, or hopefully don't hear, that clunk in the wall. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you on the next one.